Robbie Lawler was out of control.
This is Double Cross, the murder of Robbie Lawler.
It was going to be an all-out war with him in the middle of it.
Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts. So start off by telling me how you are. It's December and you're approaching the anniversary of Anthony's death.
Well, to be honest with you, Nicola, I'm not good at all, really. Because, if I'm honest, it's been nearly 18 years and I'm and I think I've explained this to you before, I'm kind of like, I'm at the lowest now because I've tried and I feel like I'm up against the wall.
Did things get harder and darker and more hopeless around the anniversary? It's significant. I know you don't go through a day without thinking about Anthony, but that time of year, I'm sure there's reminders everywhere with the winter, the long nights, you know, things that were sort of we would have otherwise just ignored and gone through. But, you know, I'm sure the Christmas decorations and the shops and everything that goes with that.
Yeah, like over the years, I've kind of learned to get my head around that. But I think what set me back was what was put out in the papers about this person that supposedly is involved in it. And that crushed the life out of me.
Now, you're talking about Johnny Mangan, and
yes,
he initially escaped from Loughlin House prison,
yes,
where he was finishing up a sentence.
Yes.
He was caught, returned to jail, but he has in February been released.
Yeah.
And he was named in the High Court along with Willie Hines as being the two chief suspects in the murder of Marlow Hyland and, as a result, your own child, Anthony.
Yeah.
So you had never laid eyes on him until you saw his picture?
No, and I tell you what, it was a treble setback for me. Because what I want people to know is my mother was poorly and we hid it from her. But she heard it on the news.
Right.
And she died on the Saturday. And there was all sorts of emotions going through me. Like, the only way I can explain it from my experience, when you don't see the face, it can't, from what I'm at the being through, you know, I didn't go there, but that opened up something for me that nearly caused me a nervous breakdown, if I'm truthful. Yeah.
And the picture of him in particular, the one that was captured, I suppose, is a particularly sinister looking picture anyway, at the best of times. But knowing that this is the man suspected of killing your child, you know, adds to that.
And you know what? I got the best counselling, you know, to help me grieve with everything. That just floored me because I was seeing a face. I never had a face before. And I never gave that person, whoever done it, right? I never gave that person the time or day. But when you see the face, Nicola, the only thing I can say, it's the worst. Like, Anthony was the worst experience, but that brought me back to that space.
And do you, because you see his face, Johnny Mangan's face in those photographs, do you relive, do you start to sort of visualise what happened?
It kills me. No, it kills me. I just think, oh my God, I wish God would take me so I don't see Anthony anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so painful. Because I thought, like, when I say thought, it was always about Anthony, Nicola. And I'm like, you know, I just, as a mother, wanted to get injustice. And I'm no better off than I was years ago. And that is the reality I have to live with. And you know what? I'm not easy on myself. I always feel I could have done enough, but I'm left with that feeling I didn't do enough. And how do you break that?
Well, that has to be broken by the justice
I'd
system,
love it.
surely. I mean, that's not for
Yeah.
you as a mother, as the mother of a victim, to break.
Yeah.
That has to be broken by the systems we have in place, by the Garda investigation, by, hopefully the DPP ruling that charges should be brought. And I suppose where you're at,
Mm.
is you have had contact from the Gardaí and they have told you that the investigation team are reviewing what they have in that they if they have enough, if they believe they might have enough
Yeah.
new avenues, that they will hand this case to the Garda's we call it the cold case team.
Yeah.
It's the serious crime review team. And that is really where it would get a robust relook to see if there's any new avenues that can be gone down.
Yeah.
All of that is outside your control, though, Christine.
Exactly. But you're left sitting on the fence. Do you know what? You don't want to get your hopes up, but you're praying for that.
Mm.
It's like how can I explain it? It's like you're given a bit of hope and it might not happen. But, it comes to a stage where you have to say, I can't live in hope anymore. It's very mixed emotions for me because even if I get it, it will be, one step closer, but I'm still on the fence whether it'll go anywhere. So I'm kind of like on the fence, when you break it down.
Mm. But you wrote to request this because it's really all you can do at this stage.
Yeah, it is. But, look, I know they're very busy over there, but you know what? It would be, I think, great to kind of put, let the people in Ireland see it can be done. Do you know what I mean? Because you see cases everywhere else. It might take years, but I hope I don't have to go to heaven to find out. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, this is your best option at this stage. It's going to be Anthony's 18th anniversary coming up on the 12th of December this year.
Yeah.
And you're facing into that again without any charges being brought against any individuals. And those individuals were named in the High Court as suspects. They remain suspects.
Yeah.
They're both free and living their lives. And do you have any message as a mother to anybody around those people that may have any information whatsoever, be they people that know them? Or I've spoken before, and I think I spoke to Brian Sherry, one of the original investigators, about this, and it just...
And by the way, he was brilliant. Yeah, honestly.
To speak about Brian Sherry, because you and I have spoken about him a number of times in phone calls, and you were charmed by him.
I just kind of broke down listening to him. When he broke down about my son and the compassion he had for the case totally got me. Like he said it himself, they done everything. And, out of respect for him, looking at him, he's an older man now, but he did give it his best shot. And I can't thank that man enough because his emotions got me.
Mm.
Where you could see, and I actually seen it on the screen. I was crying, Nicola, looking at him. And he's a hardened fella, right? But he wasn't really. He is, but he gave people chances. He didn't just go out there and, do you know what? He believed in the people.
Mm.
And that's what got me with him.
And he got a sense of Anthony, didn't he? I mean, he really...
Oh, my God.
He's almost haunted by what happened to him.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? I'm thankful I didn't have to go home to my house and find my son like that. He had to go in and do an investigation. And God love that man. I mean, I walk in a hospital, Nicola. I see things. But that must have been horrific for him. And for the way he explained it, it kind of gave me an open door to what you were saying.
Mm.
Because you've got to remember in the beginning, when it happened, I was so numb with shock. Where over the years I've listened, I've learned, and to hear someone else on their perspective of what happened, what they went in to see, got me totally. Look, I'm a mom, I'm a human being, I'm a person. Do you know what I mean? So you will feel all that.
And Brian Cherry, the detective inspector who was in charge of the case, described how they, they turned over every stone they could. They did their utmost. Okay. Now, it was 18 years ago, and obviously there are new techniques available. There, forensic science has moved on, etc. Which sometimes comes into play in other cases. Myself, we did speak about this, Marlow Hyland at the time was the state's, number one wanted man.
Yeah.
He was, and he was a massive big figure in organised crime.
Yeah.
And there was a crackdown on him and his organisation, which had left him pretty paranoid and had kind of gone on to result in the murder of a lot of people through that paranoia and all the rest that goes with it. But it seems really hard to believe that he was in that house and that there was no surveillance around it. And possibly, with the passage of time, do the Gardai themselves hold something that could be of use in this investigation or in a fresh push to try and solve this case? Is there something there that has been locked away for years and, around that sort of... Yeah.
Because can I be honest and say something to you? I remember in the early days, now I didn't get names because I wasn't in that frame of mind, but apparently there was 2 cop cars that seen them not drive away, they seen them taking a road.
Yeah.
They knew, but that would never hold up in court apparently. But that's how
That's
they
what you were told back then.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And the odd thing was, the word was on the street, Nick. I got that news 3 days later, 2 names.
Yeah. And you weren't anywhere near that world. The names wouldn't have meant anything to you. Even the name of Marlow Hyland meant little to you.
No, definitely not. But I did get a tip off from someone that on the street knew something that felt obliged to give me that message. And I even, to be honest with you, I went to the guards and they said, how did you know them names? I did. And that's the truth. I think they were shocked, but I think what they didn't realize was the word was on the street. And it took a decent person to give me a phone call. That is nothing to do with crime, nothing. Someone told her. That's the truth.
So, in that case, everybody knew fairly quickly. The Gardai investigating the case knew fairly quickly exactly who it was.
Definitely.
It was never really sort of made clear why everyone knew so quickly who it was. And that has left that suspicion that maybe there was actually some Garda activity, some sort of surveillance activity around the premises.
I do feel that. But I can't prove that. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here. I don't want to, I'm not rubbing the guards up the wrong way. But I think they knew a little bit more than what I knew. Because I have to find this out over the years, if that makes sense.
And I've no doubt that there was, there was a lot of pressure on at the time. Obviously, it was such a shocking murder of Anthony in particular. Marlow Hyland was on a trajectory in life. He had chosen a certain career that, he was a guy that was under threat at that point. Your son was out doing an honest day's work and had absolutely no nothing to do with Marlow Highlands world.
No, definitely not.
But undoubtedly at the time when this happened, while you must have been so deeply traumatized and in shock,
I was.
did you feel this was going to be, did you have a confidence all the way back then that there was somebody going to be before the courts fairly quickly? Were you given a sense of confidence that this was going to be solved?
Yeah, I was in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
I really was. And then when I seen it was going nowhere, oh my God. Do you know what? How I haven't had a nervous breakdown, I'll never know. It breaks you, but. And then you have to pick yourself up because we're not the wall, we're human. The only way I can say it, even if you get justice, look, I'm a broken woman, I'll admit that. But something has me, keeps me going because I don't want to let my son down. If that really makes sense, that's the way, from my experience, I can explain it.
You're still his mother and you're still fighting for him, and unfortunately it's fighting for justice for him rather than you know, like, at what point, so you have a confidence for a few years, and did it start to begin to feel as the years went by that you were being abandoned?
Oh, totally. I mean, look, I've always respected the guards. They have so much going on there. You know, Dublin has changed. They have all these challenges. But, you know, it was like I never even got a phone call, an update. And it was only when I got, you know, like went on radio shows and I said it out straight for what it was, that then I'd get a phone call and I thought, why now? I always feel I've got to do something to get recognition. But what the guards don't realise, I'm not a nuisance. I'm just fighting for justice for my child. And I go about it the nice way. Do you know what I mean? And you just feel like you're left in the bleeding corner. And that's the only way I can explain it because I've dealt with it. I'm living this life the last 18 years, Nicola. And it's like, you know, where do I get a break for Anthony? I've done it for him. I don't want to meet God and say to myself, I couldn't do enough for your son. Do you know that? And that's a mum's guilt. You know yourself, when you go to work, you feel guilty because you have to put the child in a childminder's. It's a mum guilt thing that I can't shake off.
And is it a sort of almost a guilt that you're alive?
Yeah, I wish I had been me. Because I wouldn't wish this on any other mother. And there's a lot of poor mothers over in Dublin that lost their kids and tragic. Do you know what I mean? But to kind of get nowhere, 2 decades on, do you know what? You feel well, I'm going to be honest, and I've never said it, I feel defeated. Where the bit of hope I have is gone now. And even if it goes one way or the other way, I'm still in the balance because I'm going to be let down either way, am I? Do you know what I mean? When you balance it up.
You've lost all hope in that system of justice.
Yeah, totally. And again, I can imagine some people over in Ireland and all, everywhere really, there's a difference when your child is murdered. There's a big difference. And even if you get the justice, right, that wouldn't lift me because I don't know anything else now because I'm fighting for the justice. It's a mixed reaction. And I think until you get into them shoes, and it's a long time, it's kind of took half my life away, really. I know that sounds a bit, you know, deep, but it's the truth. I just want people to understand that, you know, we all have hardships, we all have this, that, and the other. But when you've tried and tried and you're up against a brick wall, it does lead you.
You're speaking to, I suppose, two people out there, as in
Hmm.
one of them I'm going to describe as really the purveyors of justice, the Garda Síochána.
Yeah.
And you, while you have a hopelessness, you have a
Yeah.
hopeless sense about you, you also want to, to feel that you did everything you possibly can.
Yeah.
And your last port of call really with this is to look for this review from
Yeah.
the cold case unit.
I'm actually begging them now at this stage, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm begging, because it's, again, it was never about me. Just let me complete something for my child that I can walk away and say, look, Ants, I brought it as far as I can. I'm not asking for miracles, but there has to be something there.
Mhm.
I can't even look for a miracle, can I, Nick?
Well, no,
You know.
because, the dark reality is it'll never bring him back, but it might bring you
No.
some peace that you feel that you've done everything you could for him
Yeah.
and for that justice that may be out there for
Mm.
him. I suppose the other people you could speak to would be anybody. I mean, this is a bit cliched, but, let's
No, it's
go
not.
for it anyway. But anybody that
If
might have
anyone
information.
knows some, yeah,
Mm,
that's the other thing. Have a conscience, because we've all got to meet our maker. You know, when you go to heaven,
mm.
why would you let a mother suffer? Haven't I suffered enough? Wait and see. But there has to be someone good out there that knows something. And if, do you know what? They can't be scared now.
Yeah.
You know, that was 18 years ago. They lived under that fear. And do the right thing and just help me get some. I'll never get closure. Let me accept it, because I'll never accept it
Mm.
while someone done that to me child. And if you reach into your heart, see where I'm coming from.
And, investigators always say that information doesn't have to be somebody coming forward, giving evidence in a court of law, going on witness protection. That's the extreme end of it. It can be a
Yeah.
small piece of information. It can be something that seems
That could
almost
just
irrelevant.
join that.
Mm-hmm. And
Can
I
you
mean, you
imagine?
had to go back to England and rebuild your life, or attempt to rebuild your
I
life
had to,
after Anthony was
I had to
killed.
I had to start from scratch. I didn't want to be back in Dublin. I felt like so let down, and I just thought, to be honest with you, I'm glad where I am now, because no one knows me, and I kind of feel normal.
Yeah, because I think you
Where,
told me during the podcast when we were recording it that people sort of started sort of approaching you, and people knew, and they just
yeah,
knew you as, and some days you just weren't really able to talk about it, or you didn't want to talk about it. I think a lot of people who
yeah,
suffer grief, in particular the loss of a child, will say that some
yeah,
days they're just not able to. And people can be almost inappropriate, can't they, in their efforts to say something. Sometimes they can
yeah.
be
And
foolish,
don't get me
really.
wrong, yeah, but the majority of them meant well. There was a lot of good people, but there was people I didn't know, and I got kind of wary,
Mm.
because I'm not a paranoid person, right? But you don't know who you're talking to. And that was the cagey side for me, because strangers were very good, don't get me wrong, but you don't know who you're talking to. So, yeah, I did put up a wall.
Mm. And you'd been drawn into a world that you knew nothing of.
No, totally not. I mean, you hear it in the papers, you see it on movies, but do you know what? When it happens to you, your whole life changes. And I think why I stayed strong, because obviously I had my mum and dad, which sadly has passed away now. They gave me a good rearing. I didn't want to let them down.
Mm.
And then I kept saying to myself, don't let Anthony down, even though he's in heaven, stand your ground. Do you know, there was that mixture as well.
How will you mark his anniversary?
Well, I took the day off for work. Do you know what? I don't, because every day I miss him.
Mm.
It doesn't take a day. His anniversary always reminds me, I always think back to when he was small, or when we went Christmas Eve, we'd meet each other, we'd treat each other. I got the best 20 years. No one can take that from me.
Yeah.
But I kind of find, like, when you see people with their kids and, some are moaning saying he wants this, that, and the other, and I go, just give it to them.
Yeah.
Because the day you can't give it, that's the day. But I have got the best memories. I really have. I'd love to know what our lives would have been like now. Would have been a nanny? Do you know what I mean? I'd have been babysitting.
Mm.
How would he achieved? Yeah, I was robbed of that. But look, no one knows what tomorrow brings, and you don't take anything for granted. But the sad situation was, I lost the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm.
And how do you get over that? You don't. And then to be left in limbo because there was no arrest, no nothing. You've got all them other layers.
Yeah. I mean, there would be, I get the sense, some sort of closure for you if you felt you'd done your best and the guards
Yeah.
had done their best, and they'd looked again now to see, was there just any opportunities at all? And if
Yeah.
there isn't, I get the sense you'd accept that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm asking for a big ask because, look, I want me baby to rest now. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I feel like I've brought it. And do you know what? It's absolutely destroying me, Nicola. Because, when I talk about it, what no one knows, like after the interview and stuff like that, I'd be so emotional and crying, and because I'm annoyed at myself, because you feel like you want to say more, but you got to be careful. Do you know, there's everything going through your mind because you can only say so much, can't you?
Mm.
And that's why I'm glad I've done this interview, to try explain to people, this is where I'm at. And do you know what? I can't give any more now.
Yeah.
If I get it, I'll be over the moon for Anthony. And if I don't, I'm going to let my child rest. And I won't be sharing anything about Anthony again.
Mm.
Because you know what? It's gone on too long. And I think he'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
And I'll have to accept I couldn't take it further.
Mm.
And don't get me wrong, it'll destroy me for a while, but I'll build myself back up, because after 18 years of reject, do you know what I mean? I'm getting used to it.
Mm.
Mm.
And in the meantime, these two suspects are free, and they are supposed to be still engaged with other criminals and still.
Yes, I've heard.
Is there a point in even trying to appeal to anything human in them or not? They're still, they don't seem to have turned their back on that world. They, are being approached perhaps by younger members of the organized crime community to act as enforcers. These guys are both in their mid to late 50s at this stage.
Yeah.
Still making money perhaps from this kind of thing, like no conscience, obviously.
And that's all they know.
Mm.
They've no conscience, but my word to the pair of them is, you've no conscience now, but you've got to meet your maker.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, God, I'm like, true believer, God judge, like, when you go up there, he'll judge you. And why they're fearless now, whatever drugs they're on and whatever they're doing, they're fearless now. But I do believe karma.
Yeah.
What goes around comes around.
Mm.
And I try not think of them people. The only thing that broke my heart was when I seen that person. I didn't see the other person that was mentioned.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, I don't want to. Because that was the most devastating thing for me to see. And do you know what? I can't even put it into words here, because you just look at the photograph, all of a sudden you have the face. And then you think of your memories that you brought your baby up, nurtured him, loved him, cradled him, guided him through school. And that person took that away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's horrific, really.
Horrific. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris,
But I've got good support around me.
Yeah, and I think you've definitely supported. We've had a huge amount of response to the podcast we did with you, and hopefully we will
Thank God.
keep forging forward, and hopefully you will get some news on that review.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Nicola. You've highlighted Anthony's story, and I'm forever grateful. Seriously.
Well, you've done that. You've done that.
No, you've helped me.
Gave you a little bit of a forum to do it on, but so we wish you all the best. I'll be in touch, and look, I hope that by the new year that there will be some development with this, and that we'll be coming back to tell the listeners that a decision has been made and that there's a review.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not going to get my hopes up, Nick. I can't. So I'm going to keep it here. I'm like Humpty Dumpty on a wall sit now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I'm still on the fence, but I'm trying to make light of it, just to cheer myself up now after this conversation, because it takes lumps out here.
Yeah, yeah.
All right then, love.
Right.
And thanks for everything you've done for me.
I'll be in touch. I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.